So, Lions beat the absolute piss out of the Cowboys last weekend.
Yeah. At what
Which is-
cost?
at what cost, right? It's like that meme with
Yeah.
the Thanos
At what
thing where it's
cost?
like,
Yeah.
what,
What did it cost you? Everything.
everything. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly as a fan of the team, as a Detroit guy, it's kind of that thing where it's like you won the game. That's really exciting. You won it in the fashion you did at Jerry World. There's kind of that revenge thing over that like call last year. Um,
Sure.
that whole thing, that storyline. Two things about this. What's interesting to me is all the talk within media this week was like, are the Cowboys done? Are the Cowboys done? Right? There's like, you almost see like no conversation into the fact that like, it just feels like, again, Detroit's the best team in football right now after a win like that. Like, it's not really about the Cowboys. Um,
Yeah.
but it definitely did have that feeling of kind of a flag plant game, right? But I did want to bring something up that happened during the game. Obviously, with Aiden like breaking his leg, the way he broke it, how gruesome that was. Just really tough watch, that whole injury. Um,
Yeah.
with a team like this, I'll pose it as a question because there's a lot of back and forth, I think, in the football media and in the fan base with Lions fans and Twitter and all that shit. This team is really, really good, and that was a dominant win. That was a statement win in Jerry World. But do you feel like with the injury to Aiden Hutchinson, given this team, given this year, given this situation, the door feels open in the NFC. Do the Lions have to do whatever it takes to go get an elite edge to replace Aiden this year before the deadline?
Yep. 100% you do. 100%. You're not winning a Super Bowl without somebody on the edge. This whole notion of next man up, we can move forward. You know, the lame duck loser Lion fans who are online sitting there saying, "Oh, James Houston." No, James Houston has been a healthy scratch for 6 weeks. How's that for your savior, James Houston? I know he had 3 sacks in the Jacksonville game 2 years ago,
Yeah.
but he's garbage. You know what I mean? I mean, what are we doing? We're bringing up a guy named Isaiah Thomas from the Bengals practice squad. That's our
He,
savior.
he can be good, but he's unavailable, right? With the James, it's just a matter of, a player like that's got to be on the field. If you're replacing, yeah, I mean, let me interrupt this real quick because there is a point to be made here about when we talk about injuries. There's levels to this shit. There's losing defensive starters, and then there's losing a guy who I think between you and he was definitely on track for a Defensive Player of the Year award type season.
Yeah.
This defense was we said this all offseason. This defense would be better than it was last year. Very low bar. This defense was bad last year, but they've shown that you can still get them in the pass game pretty routinely.
Yeah.
This is not an elite defense. It's a good defense. It's an improved defense. It's an elite offense. It's an elite culture, and it's a league average defense, in my opinion. Through 6-7 weeks of watching, it's okay.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing well, but when you lose a player like this, if Cleveland loses Myles Garrett, if the Raiders lose Max Crosby, if the Steelers lose T.J. Watt, it's a different story. This isn't losing your outside linebacker who's a rotational guy. This isn't the Giants losing Kayvon Thibodeau. Injuries to starters are always a big deal, but this is a huge deal. And I think pretending like this is just kind of like, it's okay, next man up, like, not this guy. This guy's not replaceable with a player on our roster right now.
Mm-mm.
So,
well, it's and this is where I mean I know he's a god to everybody in Metro Detroit, but this is where I have to kind of give my knock to Brad Holmes. I think he's a great GM and he's an elite scout, but bringing in an injury-prone Marcus Davenport as your edge 2 answer when you knew that you needed to get somebody good coming into this year, you kicked that can down the road. You said, "Oh, we're going to bring in Davenport, and the Vikings are going to pay him." You're not the smartest guy in the room right now. You look like a buffoon because what happened is your actual elite edge broke his leg in half. on primetime television, and your injury-prone Edge 2 is out for the year with a broken elbow or whatever it is. I don't really know what it is, but it doesn't matter because he's not good. He's never played a full year of football. So because you were so arrogant in the offseason and sat there and said, "Oh, we don't need an answer. We'll be fine." Well, now you're fucked. And the idea that, oh, it's the next man up and we're going to have Josh Pascal and Isaiah Thomas off the Bengals practice squad taking reps is like, that's a good way to just tell your city and your team to go fuck themselves. And that's what they're doing by hoarding to. I guess my thing is with this, and I'm going to start getting a little passionate because I get a little fucking annoyed when I'm talking about this situation. But the reality is what are the next 2 to 3 draft picks in the first round doing for us at this point, anyways? Because we're not garbage. Without Aiden, we're not garbage. So we're not going to be a top 5. You're not missing out on a top 10 draft pick unless maybe Goff gets hurt. And I guess then at that point, I can put the clown nose on, but the reality is that Goff's probably not going to get hurt. You're probably going to be picking anywhere from 24 to 32 in any given situation. What do those guys do? You don't need a quarterback. You don't need a running back. You don't need any wide receivers. You don't need anybody on the offensive line. You don't need anybody on the defensive line outside of an edge piece. You don't need any linebackers. You don't need any secondary pieces, and you don't need any safeties. So what exactly are you doing with those picks? How are those people going to help the team right now? How are they going to help win? Because of depth? That's what we're doing. We're using first-round picks on depth pieces? No, fuck the picks. Go get Max Crosby. The Raiders suck. Go get Myles Garrett. The Browns suck. They're both in dumpster fire situations, particularly the Browns, because Myles Garrett's cheaper. They're in a nightmare. They can't pay everybody. They gave $500 million to a bad quarterback, and they're stuck. It's guaranteed money. There's no getting out of that contract.
Yeah.
So
insane.
to me, I look at it and I go, what exactly are you doing with those? Well, the money. We can't make the money work. Yes, we can. Stop acting like this money is your money, fans. Detroit, act like you've been here before. Act like you want this. Because this is ridiculous to sit there and talk about money 3 years from now as if you're footing the bill. Shut up. The cap goes up 8% every year. I mean, what are we doing? We've paid Goff. We've paid Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've paid Penei Sewell. We've now paid Aleem McNeil. What are we worried about? We paid Decker. We paid Monty Montgomery. You have Gibbs on a rookie contract. You have Campbell on a rookie contract. You have Laporta on a rookie contract. Yeah. You still have Aiden on a rookie contract for 2 more years, and that's if he comes back and looks like the same player. He broke his leg in half.
Yeah, that was
he broke it in half.
That was Nick Chubb last year in Pittsburgh level stuff, where it was like, oh my god, I watched it once, and I couldn't stomach watching it again. It was one of those like, and not even just because I'm like some moral guy, it just grossed me out seeing the leg bent like that.
Disgusting.
Like, it made me, you know, that when you get like a shiver down your spine, you're like, you feel like queasy. It made me feel uncomfortable watching it. But there's 2 realities to this too. And the other thing is with the picks, we talked about this in a previous video recently. This is a down year. A lot of people are getting hurt. A lot of teams don't look good. The offense on any particular Sunday, I mean, again, not to harken back to a bigger issue that we've already covered, but we might cover it again in a future video if it continues. The entire early slate of games last week was bad offensively.
Yeah.
I had like 7 games on, and they were all bad offensive performances. Cleveland, Philadelphia, every team I turned on looked bad offensively, right?
Sure.
This is a period of time where we're in a year where San Francisco has a losing record. We're in a year where Dallas looks completely cooked. I mean, people forget this. Before that playoff game last year, lost to Green Bay, Dallas didn't lose a home game for like 14 games straight. Dallas was a dominant regular season team. It's over, right?
Yeah.
New Orleans started off 2-0. They're horrible. The Falcons are good, not great. I mean, we go down the list. Tampa Bay, do we really believe? I mean, props to Tampa Bay for playing great football. Do we believe this is a Super Bowl team? We're going to find out. Detroit goes into Minnesota this Sunday. This is a huge measuring stick game to go, okay, which one? The nation says it's Minnesota. I personally think it's Detroit. Am I biased? Of course. But it's not really biased. I think Detroit's a better team than Minnesota top to bottom. I just do.
Yeah.
But we're going to find out on the road this Sunday what these two teams are made of, right?
Yeah.
But Green Bay's not dominant.
No,
Like
not at all.
you win in Minnesota this Sunday, right? Who's in the NFC even? Like who's really? I mean, we're talking about Sirianni being fired potentially out of Philadelphia. That team looks so bad offensively this year. I
Yep.
mean, there's nobody. New York, no. Washington, get real. That roster's
Yeah.
horrible. It's a rookie quarterback. Their defense can't stop a nosebleed. It's just not. There's
Mm-hmm.
nobody in the NFL. Arizona's fraudulent. Los Angeles is
Beat
too
'em.
banged up. Seattle, we already showed on Monday Night
Beat 'em.
Football what that game is about.
We
Like,
already beat 3 of 4.
that's
You know
what I'm
I mean?
saying. And it's like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, the picks are the picks. What was our hole? What was our massive glaring hole, right? Defensive back. Well, you signed Amik Robinson. You signed Carlton Davis. You took a corner in the first round. You took a corner in the second round. Done.
Yeah.
This is a loaded team top to bottom. They have the best running back tandem in football. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. They have a culture-building head coach. They have a young, brilliant OC who's right up there with Slowick, right up there with these guys. There is no team in this league besides Kansas City for the sort of old Patriot way of kind of like, can anybody really beat them? But we saw New England go on a 10-year deficit of no Super Bowls. They were contenders every year. They didn't win for 10 years. Like, there's nobody in the league I look at and go, yeah, I don't think Detroit can beat that team head-to-head. Like,
Yeah.
Buffalo's down. New York was a fugazi. I could literally go through the entire league and list off why I think Detroit's a better team. So, like, I live in a world where I think they're the best team, but I also live in reality where I go, yeah, we lost our best defensive player by a lot, who was playing, I'm not sure that he is, but he so far this year he was the best defensive player in football, let alone just our
Easily.
roster, let alone our
Easily.
conference, let alone the NFC, let alone contenders, right? Like, of every team, of every player, of every position on defense, you have to do what you have to do. You have to get one of those guys that you just named. You have to.
Well,
You have to.
I mean, I totally agree, but the thing that everybody seems to be missing almost is that it's not a rental. This wouldn't be Von Miller coming over to the Rams.
Sign a guy in his prime.
You're signing a guy in his prime who's contractually locked up for the next 2 to 3 years, whether it be, you know, I think you go for the moon, right? I don't all this Hassan Reddick talk, get this out of here. I don't want crazy people in my locker room. You know, oh, I'm gonna be in Japan and I don't want to play football. I want a new contract, because you're gonna have to end up paying him in the end of the day, and he's on the back nine. Go get Myles Garrett. Go get Max Crosby. They're both in bad situations. You can get one of the two. You can probably do 2 first-round picks and get either one of them. But you have to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive.
Yeah.
The whole idea that like you stay put is ridiculous. But then, okay, so let's say we're aggressive. Let's say you know what, our prayers are answered. You know, the Raiders, they just sold off Devontae for a 3rd-round pick, which is absurd. So why are you not?
Cleveland just sold off Amari Cooper, right? These things do
Third-round
give you a
pick.
little green in your eyes where you go, wait
No,
a minute. Hold on.
100%.
It's like when you're doing a fantasy football league and you notice
Yep.
that guy who's like 9th out of 10 starts like giving away pieces and you're like, wait a minute, can I get it on this?
Yep.
You know, it's like you got to
Yeah.
like see the open doors and go, well, wait a second. Like
Yes.
these are teams that thought they were going to be better than they were. And I mean, even like, again, I know it's not as exciting, but I think of a guy who just got paid this offseason, Josh Allen Hines in Jacksonville, right? Like, that's another name.
That would be
I look at
that
and
would
I
be
go,
that would be fire.
okay, go go make these offers to these teams that are disappointing and are selling pieces. You know, I mean, I'm with you, but go ahead.
Well, the way I look at it is like, particularly with when it comes to the Raiders and the Browns, right? Is you have a team, and you have 2 teams that desperately need a quarterback.
Right.
I don't know if there's any good quarterbacks in this draft, right? And if there is, it's probably one. Realistically, excuse me. It's maybe one, you know. Maybe you want to take a chance on Shador Sanders or Cam Ward out of whatever Miami, but only one team can have that pick, right? It can't be two teams. So if I'm Vegas and I'm picking fourth and I have Detroit's first rounder, it doesn't really help me to use that pick. But it definitely helps me if I piece together 4 and, 32 and jump up to 1 or jump up to 2, to a team like, say the Patriots are there, right? You guys don't need a quarterback. You just drafted Drake May last year. So you're looking for pieces. So
Looks
I'm the
pretty
perfect
good, too.
candidate. I'm the perfect, and this applies to the Browns too. I'm the perfect. They need to get a quarterback. They can't keep going forward with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
So, okay, Patriots, worst team in the league, right? All right, you guys are picking first. You have your franchise quarterback. You don't really need one. I can offer you, a pick swap and Detroit's first rounder. You let me jump up, and it's like, all right, hey, fuck it, whatever. We're still picking top 5. We have 2 first round picks, so we can start building. It's the same logic I had when I said don't pick Drake May in the first place, right? Go get Minnesota's picks and build your trenches, right?
Yep.
Bet they wish they did that, but what do I know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I don't know. It's to me, both teams can use this pick as leverage opposed to just using the pick, right? And if you just use the pick, hey, whatever, maybe it works out. I mean, we've seen plenty of guys go in the late 20s that have been huge pieces, but the most importantly, they're not producing on a Myles Garrett, Max Crosby level for the most part, right? There's anomalies there, but I mean, Max Crosby himself is an anomaly, right? 4th round pick, but the reality is if I'm the Lions next year, I'm walking into the league with everybody everybody locked up money wise for the most part. I have Aiden Hutchinson coming off of an injury that he's now fully rehabbed from. And then across from him is Max Crosby. I have DJ Reader another year. I have Aleem McNeil locked up for 4. So now my defensive line becomes Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. And then behind him, you have Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. Then behind him, you have Terrion Arnold year 2. You have Carlton Davis. You have Brian Branch. And you have Kirby Joseph, who have now set themselves apart as the best safety duo in the league.
Well, and you signed Amik Robinson, for that. You drafted
100%
for that. So that's another 100%. Year of that. You just addressed that thing this previous draft. And
so what are you going to go get? A linebacker? You just did that.
Yeah. Well, there's another angle to this too that I think is a little bit less almost like GM analysis, like because what you just said I think kind of covers that, and I think it's honestly I really couldn't add anything because I think you said it perfectly. There's also this kind of like what I consider to be the window fallacy, and I think part of what I'm seeing right now with fans around this team is this idea that like we want to keep the window open as long as possible. We want to keep the window open as long as possible. First of all, I don't think giving up picks to go get an elite edge who's a real difference maker changes that. So that's number one. But let's just say it does, right? Let's just say we give up a bunch of picks to go get a Max Crosby and, he's only good for a couple years, whatever. 2 things. Number one, the window is never open as long as you think it is. There's never as many chances as you think there are. So, ask Buffalo, right? They never got back after that 3 seconds left Kansas City game. Diggs is gone. They just traded, actually, to get Amari Cooper, right? These windows close. Cincinnati's 2-4, right?
Yep.
Like Los Angeles, they won the Super Bowl. It was a great run. Los Angeles has not flirted with it since. And this idea, like Kansas City, great. But this idea that like the window's going to be open, and we thought Miami was going to be, dynamic this year and exciting. That didn't happen. Yeah. Anything can happen. And the NFC Championship game happened last year. I think this team's better than last year's team. But right now is the time. And there's another reality to this ever open window that I think I kind of just want to put it out there that I really don't want this to be perceived as a knock on Jared Goff. but I do think it's an important distinction to like when we talk about windows. Our window as a Lions team, when I say our, I mean Detroit, obviously.
Yeah.
Our window is based on totality of roster, coaching, and culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a window that's open indefinitely because of a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, or a Lamar Jackson, or I hate to say it, the Chicago thing with drafting Caleb and having like that thing potentially built, right? We have a Minnesota Vikings window where we have these good players, we have coaching we like, and we have a quarterback that's getting it done right now. But I don't believe that Jared Goff is going to be this dominant player for 2, 3, 4, 5 years that's going to carry this team into a 4 or 5 or 6 year Super Bowl window. That's just my belief. And I do think there is a difference between the Detroit Lions window, Super Bowl-wise, and a lot of these other teams that we talk about with like Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati. I mean, there seems like Cincinnati's closed. But you know what I mean? They could get hot. You never know. My point is the window's never as open as long as you think it is. And I think that's something that I really wanted to touch on because that's a lot of what I'm seeing right now, which is like we have to think about the future. No, the future is now, man. Like we don't know what this team's going to look like even next season. So bringing in an elite player and going for broke this year and trying to win a Super Bowl or next year, like focusing on these next 2 years has to happen because we really don't know what the future is. And we do not have the guy at quarterback. We just don't. We have a really good player, but doesn't it feel like Dallas has a quarterback that's been as good as our quarterback throughout his career and their window's closing? Like, not that it maybe was ever open, but I just don't believe that we have that quarterback that's so young and dynamic that he's going to like carry the franchise for 5 more years into this like everlasting Super Bowl window. You feel me? Like the window is about this roster as a whole. Not, and we don't know when Ben Johnson's going to take that coaching job. We don't know.
No, that's
we
facts.
Just don't know.
Who knows what Goff looks like without Johnson?
We don't know what Hutch is going to look like when he comes back from this injury. We just don't.
We have no idea.
We want to believe, but we don't.
Well, and that's the thing is like again, to kind of just feed off your point and to circle back to mine is what exactly, as you just said, your window is only a couple of years. What are those rookies doing for you? Picking 28th,
right,
29th. What are those rookies doing for you? Even last year, we had to trade up to get Terry on. We had to trade up to get Terry on. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and he's not some dominant player. He's a work in progress.
Hell no. We're not seeing Jack Campbell produce until this year, his second year. We didn't see Jahmyr Gibbs produce until week 6. Like rookies, it takes a minute for the rookies to get in. Like you need like. If I'm Brad Holmes and I'm on the phone with Tom Telesco right now, you're talking 8:43 Detroit time, and I agree to a trade 2-3 first round picks for Max Crosby. Max Crosby's on a plane tonight in Detroit tomorrow. He's suiting up Sunday for the Lions. You know what I mean? Like that's just reality. That's just what would happen.
Right. Well, and speaking of Tom Telesco, right? Like let's use an example involving Tom Telesco. You and I both agree that Joey Bosa was very good to start his career, yes?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So why then did they make a move to bring in Khalil Mack? Right?
Put him over the top.
Because he wasn't available. And again,
100%.
like we don't think of Aiden as an injury-prone player because he frankly hasn't been. But like this is a serious injury, and we don't know like what the future is moving forward. Yeah. And if he comes back healthy, and if he's the same, which is less likely than people think. No, not to be like a pessimist.
No,
then
I feel
all the
you.
better. Then you have 2 great edges that play off each other. So be it. Like then then the window again. Like we say, everyone stays healthy. Window's open next year, but I'm with you, man. I mean, in totality, like the picks aren't that valuable to what this roster is right now. Let's be totally honest. Number 2,
100%.
There are elite players that are dying on the vine for franchises that are completely falling apart right now. And in closing, like I said earlier, like this is a gettable season. Like I just don't
100%.
I am not seeing dominant teams. I am not seeing teams like You and I said this last year, man. The Lions
You
look
are. It's
great.
the
And
Lions.
right,
They're
that's what
putting
I'm
up
saying. But like outside of
32
that, like
points a game.
right. But I'm saying outside of that, like where are you looking and going, oof, I don't want to see them. Like frankly, like
Yeah.
Philly, not worried. Dallas, not worried.
Yep.
Seattle, not worried. San Francisco, to me, is like the scariest team in the
Not
NFC,
worried.
and they have a losing record.
Not even kind of worried.
But that's what I'm
Not even
saying. Like,
kinda worried.
and we hung in with San Francisco last season. Detroit was right
Yeah.
in that game till the very end. They just
Dude.
weren't ready to close. And like,
And the
Do it
idea,
now.
like the logic I've seen, online from some of our Lions constituents is like, oh well, Brad Holmes had a first row seat to watch how Les Snead screwed over the Rams situation by giving up the mortgaging the future. It's like, okay, one, he got a Super Bowl out of it. Not a single Rams fan cares about this. Not a single Rams fan cares about this. And two, you have to also understand like the timing. The reality with the 2021 Rams is that Donald was on the back nine, Andrew Whitworth was on the back nine. It was Jalen Ramsey's last year of his prime. It was Von Miller's last year of his prime. It was who was the safety that they like brought in towards the very end? He was the white
Weddle.
dude who played for the Eric Weddle. He was
Yes.
retired basically. He
Yes.
like came in for like a Cinderella run at the end there. You know, I mean, Cooper Kupp has not been healthy since that year.
dominant that season. Brought Odell Beckham.
You know what I
who
mean?
was in his
You
last
brought in
legs.
Odell Beckham last year, so you had all these guys on this magic carpet run, and that's why they made the trade for Stafford. They're like, all right, we have 1 year to do this, and they did it. Whereas the Lions, it's like, okay, if
we might have
do
1
this,
year. We might. Like,
we might
really
only
don't
have 1
know.
year, but the reality is like you have everybody young and locked up right now.
Yeah.
So what do the picks matter right now? They don't matter.
Right.
You're not rebuilding 2 years from now. You know what I mean? Like you have Goff locked up. Like I said, you got Amon-Ra, you have Panay. Who's leaving? Frank Ragnow? Maybe. He's 29. You know what I mean? Like maybe. I know he's got like a toe injury, but I feel like the Lions fans are the only ones who sit there and talk about Ragnow maybe retiring. He's gone out there and said multiple times, like, hell no, I'm not retiring. I'm just like, I need to take a minute after the season's over.
Well, you think
Panay
Philly
is
regrets trading that
23.
pick for AJ Brown?
Hell no, they don't.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like when we really
Hell
get into
no,
it,
they
like,
don't.
Think about like, and everyone's always like, "Oh, he would never be available." It's like, well, then why was Christian McCaffrey, who's the best offensive player in the league, why was he available for a second rounder?
Well,
from San Francisco? It's like,
that's a great example too.
these are
Those dudes gave
similar
up.
situations, are they not?
Didn't they give up what 3 first-round picks to go up and get Trey Lance, who was an utter bust?
You never
Did
know.
Did that
You
stop them
never
even
know.
kind of? Because the first-round picks that late in the year or that late in the draft do not matter. Doesn't matter. We have Nick Bosa.
I would
Doesn't
argue,
matter.
bro.
We
I
have
would
Trent
argue-
Williams.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. This might be controversial. I would argue that even if it was a top 10 pick, it wouldn't matter. Like
I don't think it
I
would.
genuinely just
Where are
don't
they?
see-
Where is this person going to fit on the team? Who is he replacing? We don't have any aging veterans who
Aiden?
are like on their last leg. Literally, I mean
End.
that's
Edge
literally
rush.
what it is. It's
Edge rush.
end. It's an end. So okay, am I
We
going
would-
to take
we
a
would draft
chance
an
on?
edge rush in the first round next year?
Am I taking a
Undoubtedly.
chance on James Pierce from Tennessee and hoping that he can be good? Or am I mean look at fucking Darius Robinson last year out of Missouri. Tore his ACL in preseason, hasn't even seen the field.
Right. Well, I mean, like even
These
like
things
Latu,
happen.
right? Like we're not sitting here being like, God, did you get a load of Latu last Sunday? I mean, it's like,
Dallas Turner hasn't played.
yeah,
Dallas Turner he hasn't had any impact on the Vikings even whatsoever.
No.
He's been a non-factor. And these are players who were like sought after. These were players who
Chop
were
Robinson
expected to
in
be
Miami. We're not talking about Chop Robinson in Miami
because
like, I mean,
he's not any good. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. He's a
but, like,
rookie.
maybe,
You know what I
but these are
mean? Like
developmental players.
they're
I mean, who
rookies. That's
gives
what I
a
mean.
shit?
Like they're
Yeah.
not. It doesn't matter. They're
No, I'm with
rookies
you.
right now.
Right.
You know
and
who's really
you-
good? You know who's really good right now? Max Crosby's
Crosby.
really good right now.
Right,
He's
and
a
it's one of
top
those
5 defensive
situations-
player this year.
Well, and like we saw with the receivers, right? The deadline with Buffalo, particularly with New York and Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wouldn't you just feel comfortable if you just like tomorrow read that Max Crosby got traded to us and was starting during the Vikings game, that he was going to be really good?
I wouldn't.
That game,
I wouldn't care about those first round picks at all.
you would never think about them again. And it's not like Max
I
Crosby's
wouldn't care at
34,
all.
right? So it's one of those
That's
things.
my
Like,
point.
you mentioned
Max Crosby
it, right?
just turned 27. So
Yeah.
if you trade for Max Crosby right now, he's already locked up for 3 more years, right? And you have Aiden on a two more years of his rookie contract. So the money it doesn't even matter really. It wouldn't even matter.
What he is when he comes back.
That's what I mean, though.
I don't really want to wait to find out. I'd rather hedge my
Hell
bets
no.
and go.
Hell
right,
no.
It's, I mean, I keep making these funny like fantasy football references, right? But it's like having Pacheco on IR or something and being like, you know what, I'm gonna trade for another RB, and then like maybe I get him back in my lineup at the end of the year. Like that'd be nice.
It's a win-win.
Christian McCaffrey, but like, I'm not waiting. I'm not letting another year of this football team have a hole like this and be like, yeah, you know what, we got these picks though, we'll draft and develop. Like, to me, that time is up. And I'm with you. I see this as an absolute moment to like, you've got 2 or 3 years at the most, if we're lucky, to like really make a run here. And then you just never know. So I don't need a bunch of depth pieces and players right now. I need a guy to replace somebody who was really on a run. And it's really sad too as a fan, because we talked all off season, like he's been overrated his first couple of years in terms of entering these conversations. Well, this year he was doing it. This year he really was the best edge rusher so far in this season. Better than Bosa, better than Crosby, better than Garrett. There is no replacing this unless you go and get one of those guys. And I do agree with you. I think there's 1 or 2 of those who could potentially be available. And I'm giving you whatever you want. I really am. I mean,
Let's start the conversation with a first and a third. If that's a hang up, I'm calling you back and I'm giving you 2 firsts and a fifth. And if that's a hang up, I'm putting 3 firsts on the table.
Yeah,
because the reality is that none of those 3
says yes.
I'm going to make them say no. You make them say no.
Yep.
You make Tom Telesco say no to you. Because your guy who Mark Davis is coming out saying, oh, he's not available. Your guy's in the locker room saying, I'm not trying to be part of a rebuild. I want to win.
Well, and I feel him.
His buddy just got traded. They have no quarterback. They haven't fucking built this team right. Their owner's a complete and utter doofus.
Yeah.
Their coach isn't any good. It's a shit show there. It's a shit show. Devontae Adams saw the writing on the wall and said, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. I'll go back to my boo thing, Aaron. I don't even like. I left Aaron willingly. That's how toxic it was with Aaron, but it's better than this.
And he's right. I mean, New York is a soap opera right now, and I would imagine 100 out of 100 players would rather be in a Jets jersey.
And the other like the thing that like a lot of people don't know when they're like, especially like Raider fans might be thinking like, why is that even on the table? It's like, well, beyond the fact that like you guys are a dumpster fire, Max Crosby's wife is from Michigan. He's from Michigan. He was born in Lapeer. He went to Eastern Michigan. He's got ties here. All his best friends live in Michigan. Like this, he's talked about this so many times.
It matters.
There's the infamous picture of him in 9th grade wearing the Joey Harrington jersey. Like he rocks with the Lions. They were his team growing up. Like it
he's a
matters.
good culture fit.
He's the perfect culture fit. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
you don't think he would come in and immediately be a Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn guy?
Yeah.
He would fill in. He would rally that locker room off of the loss of Aiden in a heartbeat. And then the next year, again, you're walking into the season with Aiden Hutchinson and Max Crosby. It's not like you're losing anybody because nobody's walking in free agency because you don't have any free agents. You locked everybody up.
Yep.
So if anything, you're gonna get like aging vets on really good deals who are just trying to ring chase because I like what's going on here, and this is the best team. I mean, you tell me that you start next year with those defensive pieces and those offensive pieces, and you're not the far away favorite. Get out of here.
I think they should be the favorite this year, but again,
they should be.
Like the second half of the NFC Championship game, don't let another season and don't let this Aiden injury turn into an infamous situation where 2 40-year-old guys 10 years from now are sitting in a dive bar on a couple of bar stools in Southeast Michigan talking about what ifs.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. Like,
and that's my biggest fear.
You got to try.
That's my biggest
I know
fear.
Philly didn't win it, but like Philly traded for A.J. Brown. They made a Super Bowl run. Like I know San Francisco didn't win it, but they got there. And
Yep.
I guarantee you they don't think ever about those picks. They have Christian McCaffrey, even injured. Like, the 2 seasons McCaffrey's given the Niners has been insane. Like,
Yeah.
just
And
fucking
they didn't
do
even
it.
give up
That's it.
they didn't even give up the first rounds for those. They gave up
100%. But you know what I'm
thirds
saying?
and
Like,
seconds.
I mean,
They gave up the first round picks for Trey Lance, who never ever played.
it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But yeah. On that note, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. If you're Lions fans, let us know. If you disagree somehow, let us know. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much it, man. Peace out.
Peace.